So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Soulful Sugar Detox, where we are learning how to find true food freedom for the health of our body, mind, and spirit, right? I'm so glad you're here. And so, let's get started. So we are in week 2, and so I want to ask some questions of you and just, answer these in your head. You can even comment in the Facebook group if you want as well, but or just send me a message, okay? How are you doing? How did week 1 go for you? We spent 3 days doing a prep mode. Then we did 3 days of a kickstart with a really lower carb content. So what were your big wins? Think about one and find at least one small one and write that down in your journal or in your book and give yourself a pat on the back, because this is not easy to change and try to eliminate sugar, right? And so also, what were your challenges? I know for me, I missed my crunchy crackers. I'm gluten free, but I found a healthier cracker, but I kind of missed that crunch, so I ate some nuts, but I really wanted those crackers. So that was a challenge for me. And y'all may have had your own, but I'm excited that you're here. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect in week 2. But first, I want us to focus on our joys, right? Forget your failures and relive your joys. Just forget what maybe didn't go right last week. It's okay. We are starting over, right? Every day is a new beginning. And when we focus on what went right and our joys and that one little tiny step of progress, that's going to help us succeed, because we're not going to want to give up. And the good news is we know that God is with us, right? He says in Proverbs 32:8, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eye upon you. I love this because he's always watching, right? And he cares about us. And this whole program is really to remind us that he cares about our bodies and our minds, right? He wants to be number one in our lives. He doesn't condemn us, but he gently calls us back to put him back on the throne, not food, right? If you use food to comfort or emotional reasons or whatever, which I have done, that's one of my areas of weakness. He wants to remind me and wants to remind you, put God back, right? And he's going to guide us and give us strength that we need every day. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over what to expect in week 2. And we're going to talk about mindset, using this 3-step reset process daily, tracking your active practice, your motions that we just started doing, what may be some withdrawal symptoms you're feeling, how the 21 days is going to look. I'm going to give you a little bit of a nutrition 101 and meal planning. And then we're going to talk about sleep, hydration, and some light exercise. So first, mindset. We know that mindset is key, and I hope you're realizing that as well. The good news is, as Christians, we can have the mind of Christ, right? That's what it says in the Bible. And we are going to use the 3-step reset that Kathy Morenzi, the author, has developed in order to help us really solidify having a biblically minded mindset. So the 3-step reset, we know that this week you did pause, pray, and some active practice. And we're going to talk a little bit about those more in depth today. But it basically is the process that we're going to be using to take those captive thoughts, right? Increase our awareness so that we know that they're there, and then counter them with prayer and the word of God. We are going to battle with our mind, but also with the devil, right? He doesn't want us to be joyful, right? He knows that we're not going to be as effective at serving God or showing others his love if we are battling food or whatever that we're battling, right? He does everything he can to aim those arrows at us. And he's smart. He knows what bothers you, and he knows what bothers me. And they might be different, right? But many of us are here because it's through food and we feel like we're drawn to those sugar cravings, those addictions. And then when we give in, we feel guilty and that we're not capable of doing anything, right? Well, that's not true. We beat ourselves up. The focus is on us at that point and then not God or others. So we are going to use the three-step reset process as a counterintuitive program, similar to what the military uses to counter terrorists or enemy in the battle. Okay. So you began last week and we're going to continue this week. So the first two focused in on pausing, which is when you notice a toxic thought coming, like, I'm not hungry, but I really want that cake. I really want to eat that. Or maybe it's something like, oh no, I said something to that person and I'm a terrible person. Well, you want to pause and become aware of that toxic thought, right? And then you want to pray and ask God to help you go to war with that thought because it's a lie. It's not true. We don't want to base it on feelings. So we're going to counteract that with scripture, with phrases and declarations. And we learned about that just a few days ago. And then part 3 of this process is active practice. And it's really simple, but sometimes we try to overthink it. Don't do that. She gave a lot of examples in the book, but it's basically just adding a motion or a gesture to reinforce that you are replacing that toxic thought with something else. So, you become aware of a thought, then you pray, you quote some scripture, and then, you say one of those declarations or phrases, and then you can put your hand over your heart. That's one of the active practice that she suggested. You can smile, you can stomp your feet, you can raise your hands to God, you can turn around, whatever you want to do that's going to help cement that you are taking captive that toxic thought. Okay. And just remember that we have a choice over what we think, right? Nobody makes us think anyway. It might be due to people in our past who were very negative, or maybe even some abuse that we suffered by people and mental and emotional abuse. But we know that's not what God wants us to focus on. And He knows that He can strengthen us. And I know that as well. We are doing battle here, right, with these toxic thoughts, but we have to practice. Just like you practice learning to play an instrument or anything else, we've got to practice it, especially if we have some patterns that have been going on for years, right? So you want to take advantage and use that active tracker worksheet. I sent that out in Saturday's email, and it's also going to be in Sundays as well. But if you can't find it, just shoot me an email or message and I'll send it to you again. But it's just to help you keep track of those, and then you'll know how to counteract those toxic thoughts. All right, so you may be experiencing some withdrawal symptoms. You may have already experienced them last week. If you had really stuck to no sugar and very low carb, you may have felt some withdrawal symptoms. And some of the things I mentioned last week, but I wanted to go over them again because maybe you're just starting to feel those. Some headaches and fatigue. Maybe you feel a little panicky or anxious, maybe some insomnia, so a little bit more trouble sleeping, irritability and moodiness. These are actually quite normal. We're going through some withdrawal symptoms, kind of similar to a drug addict, if you think about it. And so if you were eating a lot of sugar before we started, and then all of a sudden you stopped, it's like going cold turkey. So your body's got to have time to adjust, and that's going to affect how you feel, including your mental health and your emotions and your moods and all. Usually by day 5 to 7, they're gone with most people. Use your 3-step reset and make sure that you're resting and that you are eating enough of the things that you can eat. Don't not eat at all, because then that's going to cause more headache and hunger as well. All right, so what can you eat for the next 21 days, right? So the way she had the book labeled was the 3 days of prep days and the 3 days of the kickstart, and then official day, the day one of the 21 days. So that's what we are starting on. There are plenty of healthy, nutritious, and delicious foods that you can eat, proteins, complex carbs. We're going to talk about that in a minute, and healthy fats. And we're trying to stick with 100 grams or less. So in the kickstart, we were 50 grams or less. So see, you've got double that now. So that's going to be a little bit more manageable for you. And, you're going to have more energy as well, probably. So remember, carbohydrates turn into sugar or glucose in your bloodstream, and that gives you energy. But if we have too many carbs and then cravings, that's going to cause some issues. Anybody in the past been able to eat a whole loaf of homemade bread or maybe a pan of cinnamon rolls? I'm raising my hand because, boy, that's what I could make a meal on that. But it just makes me crave more and more, right? And so you don't want to start the carb cravings because that's just as bad as the sugar cravings, right? And many of the excess carbs, because it turns into sugar, all that's going to be stored as fat. And none of us wants that, right? Okay, so this week, when you're meal planning, you want to focus in on the macronutrients of the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, right? You want to listen to your body about what it needs, okay? And so as far as the protein and healthy fat, you want to make sure you're getting enough of those because that's going to keep you fuller longer. The proteins help build up your muscles and your cells, and that's going to keep you satisfied and have enough energy so you won't give in to the sugar cravings, okay? They're both needed for digestion, muscle repair, and just your body functions in so many ways. But let's focus in on carbs. So carbohydrates are not bad for us, right? They provide fuel for our body and our mind, and your body uses it for energy, digestive health, and blood control. It's the type of carb that you may be choosing. The simple carbs, those are the ones that when I say carb, you probably think of like breads and pastas and cookies and cakes and candy, okay? Those are simple carbs, or they're called refined carbs because they're made with a lot of sugar, okay? And those are the unhealthy ones that you don't want to eat too much of. Those are the ones that probably led you to have the sugar cravings that you have right now, okay? The complex carbs are the second type of carbohydrate, and these are the healthy ones that you want. They're like the fruits and the vegetables. They're whole grains like brown rice, legumes, beans, quinoa, and oats. And during the sugar detox, these are the ones that you want to eat more of. Why? Well, the simple carbs are going to break down so quickly that your blood sugar is going to rise quickly. Think about when you eat a candy bar or maybe a donut. You get the sugar rush, you feel happy and energetic, then an hour or two later you crash and you're starving, right? It doesn't keep you full. They don't have much fiber, so it's going to pass through your system very quickly. And they have very little nutritional value. So no vitamins, minerals, or antioxidants. So they're basically just wasted foods, okay? And most of them are high calorie, okay? So you can see why maybe you're having some weight issues. If you've eaten mainly those, if most of those have been the highest part of what you're eating, okay? And we know that eating a lot of those can lead to chronic health issues like diabetes type 2, heart disease, and obesity. But the complex carbs have a lot of fiber. They're digested slowly, so they're going to keep you fuller longer and satisfied. Your blood sugar is going to remain very level, so you're not going to have those cravings. And they have a lot of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. And that's really what your body is craving, okay? So The complex carbs I just talked about, those branch down into two types, starchy veggies and the non-starchy veggies, when we're talking about just the vegetables, okay? And she's had this in the book. You may have seen this as well. The difference is the starchy veggies have more starch, obviously, and so that means more sugars, and they're a little bit higher in calories. They taste a little bit sweeter. These are things like regular potatoes, sweet potatoes, the winter squashes like butternut squash and acorn squash and beets. The non-starchy veggies, excuse me, have less of a glycemic index, which means they're not going to raise your blood sugar level as high as the starchy veggies. And these are things like broccoli, lettuce, greens, string beans, zucchini, cauliflower. In the back of the book, when she lists unlimited vegetables, those are the non-starchy vegetables. And then she also does list a carb and starchy section. However, she limits how much of those that you can eat. So you want to pay attention to that. Like one example she gives is you can have a slice of the whole grain bread or rye bread, but only one per day. You want to check the carb count, okay? Or maybe whole grain crackers, but you got to note your portion size, or popcorn or oatmeal, okay? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so let's talk about the nutrition label that you see on all packages, and I'm going to explain how to do the carb calculation because I've gotten a few questions about this, really good questions. So you'll see this on most packaged foods. It's required now. They have this nutrition label, and then they have ingredients below, and we'll talk about ingredients next week. But you see this and how it's labeled. So the number one points to your serving size. You want to be really aware of that because that's going to talk about how large your portion is. And you see in this example, it's 2/3 of a cup. Well, say you were eyeballing, you didn't measure, and you poured yourself 1.5 cups. And you thought that was one serving size. Well, you can see your calories going to go up, your carbs are going to go up, everything's going to go up. And so that can be leading to the weight gain, the blood sugar cravings, and all. So you want to pay attention to your serving size, okay? You don't want to go too high, but you also don't want to go, too low. Okay, so number two is talking about how many servings per container. So that's important too. One example is, how you get out a bag of chips and you say, okay, I'm going to take the whole bag and go sit on the couch, right? And then you're going to be eating from that bag. Well, before you know it, half the bag is gone. And when you look at this nutrition label, you see the serving size is only 7 chips. So boy, you've gone way over. So what should you do? You portion out the serving size in a small bowl or like baggies if you're taking it with you to work or to keep in your car as a snack. But portion it out and then put the large package up so you're not going to be tempted to eat more, okay? All right, if you look at number 3, that is pointing to your total carbohydrates, okay? And that's in 1 serving size, okay? So in this example, the total carbohydrates is 37 grams, and that's in 2/3 of a cup, right? Number 4 shows the sugars, the fiber, the protein, and then like the vitamins and minerals and all. But I want to explain to you about the total carbs here. So if you see, the total carbs is 37 grams. In order to figure out your net carbs, you're going to subtract this fiber here, which is 4. So 37 minus 4 is 33 grams, right? So that's 33 net grams of carbs in that serving size, all right? So according to this program, that's what we're doing, is we're doing the net carbs. So that'll probably give you a little bit more flexibility, okay? So you just take total carbs minus the fiber, and that gives you your net count. Now, in this example, though, the 33 that we have, if we're trying to stick to about 100 per day, that's about 25 or 30 grams per meal with a little bit of extra for like snacking. 37 grams in 2/3 of a cup of whatever, that's going to use up, the 33 is going to use up a third of your daily consumption, right? So you want to be aware of this and figure it out so that you're not eating too many carbs, okay? And I had several reach out to me last week and they went over, and sometimes it's hard at first. So the main thing is to read your labels and measure, right, your portion sizes out and do this subtraction. You do it a few days or a week and you're going to get the hang of it. You're not going to have to constantly measure, okay? All right. And then number 5 is just showing the calories, the fat, the cholesterol, and the sodium count. But I really wanted you to pay attention to this carbs and figure out how to get the net carb amount. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If not, y'all let me know. Okay, one thing you want to be doing to make sure that this program goes as well as can go is be sure you're getting enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night. So in order to do that, you're going to need to back up and start preparing and doing all your nightly tasks early enough so that you can get in bed so you can have the 7 to 8 hours, right? If you want to be in bed by 10 p.m. and like laying your head down, then you probably need to start by 8 p.m. getting your shower, making lunch or snacks for the next day, maybe getting the crock pot set up for your meal for the next night. If you have little ones, getting them ready, things like that. You've got to just backtrack, because if you start at 10 o'clock getting ready for bed, you're not going to get in bed until probably 11. Okay. But here's the reason why. We know that lack of sleep is one factor that actually causes us to be moody, fatigued during the day, irritable. We reach for sugary goodies for that jolt of energy, right? Just like the drug addicts do. Temptations are going to be greater if you're tired. And it also, poor sleep actually leads to higher levels of ghrelin, which is the hormone that makes us hungry. So you don't want that, right? So get your sleep. And remember, you can't be eating when you're sleeping, right? All right. The next thing to be sure you're doing is getting enough water. We really need to drink more water than we do. The average person drinks far less than they need. Often when we think we're hungry, we're really thirsty and dehydrated. So try to drink about half your body weight in ounces of water. But if you haven't been drinking much at all, start slow. Don't go too fast or you're going to get bloated. But easy things you can do is fill up water glasses and put them all over your house, or thermoses, on your bathroom counter, in your kitchen. If you have a desk like I do, I have my thermos sitting here at my desk, and that way I'll drink it while I'm working. Put one in your car, and that way it reminds you every time you see it, you drink a little bit. You can also enhance your water by flavoring it with herbs and veggies and fruit. It's just called infused water, and it really does make it tasty, like the picture shows, with some lemon and mint. Another thing that we're wanting to start this week, now it's going to depend upon you and how you're feeling, is trying to do some light exercise for movement if you can. If you haven't been doing anything, you really want to start slowly and gently, just walking around the block or maybe a little bit in your neighborhood or in a park. It's going to help lift your moods, and eventually you're going to really look forward to it. Research shows that people who exercise or intentionally move at least 5 times a week lead healthier lives. They also tend to eat less, and they are able to keep their weight stable. But if you haven't been doing anything, you want to watch your frequency, duration, and intensity. What do I mean about that? Well, if you haven't been doing anything, don't go from nothing to 5 days a week. Your frequency could be just 1 day a week. Your duration is how much time you spend when you're doing it. So if you haven't been doing anything, go once a week and just do 10 to 15 minutes of walking, okay? Intensity is how fast, how hard you're pushing yourself, okay? So if you haven't been doing anything, go once a week, maybe for 10 minutes, and just a slow, gentle walk. Gradually, you can increase it so that you feel like you're burning some more calories, some more energy, but just start slow. And I think you're going to look forward to it. Okay, so just remember that you can do this, right? I want you to be proud of how hard you are working. Any small step you do is progress, right? It's progress, not perfection. And we know that when we are looking for perfection, we're focusing on us, not on the Lord, right? And my favorite Bible verse is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I know that you can as well. And remember, I'm here to help you. We have others doing it with us. You can go into our Facebook group. You can encourage them. You can ask questions or make comments, and you're going to get support from all of us there. Also, I'm having a live Q&A this Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And I'd love for you to join me there. If you have any questions, let me know what they are. And it'll be recorded. So if you can't be there, then you'll get to watch that. So that's all I have today. I hope you have a great week 2, and reach out and let me know if you have any questions. So thanks for joining me.